We're joined right now by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 M&M's Red Nose Day Toyota. Kyle, can you just tell us a little bit about Red Nose Day?
Sure. Um, it's a pretty cool initiative that M&M's is involved in with NBC. Just trying to raise money, and they do a really good job of that. It's been going on for the last 3-4 years. M&M's has been a huge part of it, and they donate over $1 million to charitable causes of Red Nose Day. So. Really neat deal. Be involved in. Have them on our car this week here at Charlotte. The year's kind of different. Normally it's at Kansas, but this week it kind of falls for us here with the All-Star race. So looking forward to that, but also looking forward to the race if we could ever get on the racetrack here and get some practice in.
All right, so you're number one in points right now, but Harvick's got you by 2 wins. What do you guys got to do to get those wins to catch up to him?
We got to catch up a little bit on speed overall, I'd say. I think our Toyotas are close, but it seems the blue ovals have got a little bit of an advantage this year. You kind of see it weekly. You look at the rundown of the pylon, and it's lots of Fords lined up in the top 12 spots. So it's pretty obvious based just off of last year and looking at the pylon and kind of seeing a little bit more spread there between Chevys, Fords, and Toyotas. But all in all, we just got to go to work and figure out what we got to do in order to get better. I think some of the aero changes that have kind of come down this year have definitely benefited them a little bit more so than us. And, we're trying to work through some of those things as we go right here throughout the season.
All right, we're going to open it up to questions. We'll start with Mike Hembry.
No. Digging.
Test, test. There we go. Mike Hembry, USA Today. Two things, Kyle. You and Harvick with multiple wins. With each additional win you might pick up, how much gain does that give you down the road as far as working on cars for the playoffs, giving you more time to not necessarily concentrate on week to week, but down the road? Does the number of wins stacking up matter there?
I think the biggest thing about wins is playoff points. We all look for those stage points. We look for those playoff points. I think that just kind of helps you through your seeding through the different races and the different playoff rounds. And, I think most notably everybody kind of looks at Charlotte as being the Roval, being a wild card. And anytime you're able to win a race or pick up a stage point, that's essentially a free spot of that day. And I know a lot of guys are kind of looking at the wild card race of Charlotte, if you will, that, basically you win a race, that's 5 free spots, so you don't have to push real hard and necessarily think about going to the Roval and having to finish top 5 or top 10. Anytime you can get a win, you can think about just getting through the day. And that's kind of where we're at right now with all that.
And what's your perspective on the court ruling this week about gambling? Somewhere down the road, it may be possible for fans to gamble on NASCAR at maybe every track or in every state.
Fantastic.
Good or bad?
Hell yeah, I think it's good. I don't think there's a negative to it. I think you look at a lot of different jurisdictions across the country have kind of gotten into more of the casino-type atmospheres. I don't remember casinos being around Illinois years ago, but there's some more around Illinois. You got some on the river for Ohio there, just outside Kentucky, and of course Vegas, being from Las Vegas, that's the mecca for gambling in the country, and it's pretty neat that you have this opportunity for fans to be able to bet on your sport. I think it'll put more eyeballs on the sport. I think it'll bring some interest to the sport. I've always kind of looked at horse racing as you can go out there and bet on horse racing, but why can't we bet on racing? So I think it's just a difference of where the world's kind of going and what's kind of happening. So, I think it's fine. What that does for casinos and gambling meccas already, maybe that will hurt them a little bit because there may be some more online stuff that kind of pops up. So we'll have to obviously look at the economics of that. But, I think as far as our sport goes, it's a positive.
All right, we're going to go to Claire, Jerry, and then Mike Solarte.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. 2 quick things. First is you guys didn't get a lot of practice yet, if at all. And how much do you need, and how do these variables play into it if you don't get enough practice?
They might just send us out there, line it up and race, boys, and go have at it, you know. So I think that would be quite interesting, with being this the first time we've ever been on a package quite like this. You know, the first time I got out of my garage stall, I made it to the end of pit road and backed up, and then the second time I got out down a backstretch, hit fourth gear, and then pretty much came back to pit road. So you know, that was about all I've got to practice right now. A couple other guys have run some laps and have gotten some speed, and have gotten in the draft in order to post a faster time or whatever. So you know, there's guys that are out there that have 2 more corners or 4 more corners than we have underneath our belt for experience and laps around here. But we'll just have to keep playing it by ear and see what we get. You know, if they still want to qualify tonight, then you got to have cars done practicing and figuring out how to get in line by 3:30 probably at the latest. So if we can't get any practice in by 3:30, then you'll have to nix qualifying. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Also, I want to ask you about the All-Star race, and it's $1 million and a race. Everybody seems real serious about it, but as a sport, an All-Star race, what does it mean to you? Is it an exhibition? Is it just the money on the line? What about the All-Star race in general?
I think it's just all about the money on the line. I don't think that, well, this week it is sort of an exhibition race, if you will, because there's a completely different rules package. There's a completely different set of how the race is going to unfold and things like that. But you essentially still have your stages. You still have your same competitors. But, you know, with the differences in rules and things that we've got going this week is certainly going to be a type of an exhibition. So other than that, it's just about trying to go out there and win that $1 million and bring home a check or bring home a steering wheel, I guess.
PRN. There's been some predictions that you and Kevin both could end up in double-digit wins this year. Do you think about that? And if you had to pick, do you think that's a reality for both of you guys, or for you specifically?
I'd like to hope it's not a reality for anybody but me. You know, so obviously Kevin's halfway there. He's done a phenomenal job. Those guys are fast right now, and there's a lot of catching up to do for the series. As Kevin talked about last week, he feels like he's playing video games right now, you know, and it's fun to have those moments. And I've been in those moments very rare times in my career, maybe once before, maybe in 2008. But you know, other than that, it's just we got to go to work and figure out how to be better in order to try to figure out how we're going to win races and get ourselves up to that level of competition. I don't know that we're capable of going to the racetrack to some of these mile and a halves and being able to compete with those guys and being able to score the wins that we need to get double-digit wins. I would like to think that 2 guys winning double digits in victories in a season is I don't know that that's a positive thing. You know, I'd like to think that Kevin's got his 5 he's done for the year, and I got about 2 or 3 more left in me, and then we got to spread the wealth, you know. But you know, for spreading the wealth, there's got to be guys that either A, get a little bit lucky right now and win based off of a strategy call or something like that, like Martin almost had last week at Kansas. But more times than not, it's going to be about the smartest guy and the fastest car.
And a quick follow-up. In your championship year, obviously you weren't racing at this point in the season. You didn't have wins under your belt. Do you go forward looking at, hey, I know that there's some more tracks that I can get wins at, and does that help you build momentum going into the playoffs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we go each and every week trying to win, but you know, there's certainly some racetracks on our calendar that we have circled about, got to get better here, need to compete for wins, need to contend for wins here, and there's certainly tracks on the calendar that we circle and say, we're going here to win, you know. So there's definitely, you know, no shortcomings from us to think that we can't go out there and score more. You know, it's just a matter of putting it all together and getting it done. So, you know, most notably, Michigan comes up that we look at of a place that we need to figure out how to compete better there. That's a place where you circle it and say, okay, Larson's going to be the guy that's going to go get a win there. You know, we look at Pocono as being a good place for us now that we can circle that place and be like, we can go there, we can win there. So, you know, it's just a matter of what all happens and how it all comes down at the end of these races.
Kyle, Mike Solarte, Spectrum News. Kurt was in here talking about there might be 10 different ways to set up the cars for tonight, and obviously the lack of practice is hindering how you guys are going to do that. How do you view this package for this particular race? Is this a challenge? Is this exciting for you? I mean, how are you viewing this package and the restrictor plate and all the changes that you're going to be driving this weekend?
Man, I don't know. I just you're kind of optimistic about it a little bit, but it's also hesitant, you know. So I think the biggest thing for me and for what I try to tend to look at and prepare for is just the unknowns. And a lot of times I and my team, Adam Stevens and my guys, they give me really good cars, and we're able to unload, and we're able to know what to expect right away, and we're pretty well prepared. And so we're one of the best of having speed right off the truck and being ready to rock and roll, and other guys kind of catch up, if you will, as practice goes along. So I look at it as though it's an opportunity for us, or if we're the guys that aren't ready as we think we are off the truck, then we got a problem, you know. But I think we just gotta. It'd be nice to have some practice, but if we don't, we don't, and we just gotta go off of what we know and basically the fourth gear down the backstretch of what I got and build off that.
Jenna?
Kyle, if this race is an exhibition for $1 million, so let's say it's the last lap, you and Kevin Harvick. How does that play out?
I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know what these cars are going to drive like in a pack in traffic. I don't know what they're going to be like, how they're going to suck up. I don't know whether there's another car behind me. If you need cars behind you to help pass the car in front of you, you know, it's just it's no telling. If you're looking for a Rusty Wallace DW type moment for me to say, then sure, have at it, I guess.
Well, not a moment maybe, but any sort of ego or pride or that you can take.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we know they're the better group right now. I don't think anybody should not say that they're the better group right now, you know. And I'm not saying that we feel bad not being the better group right now. We just know that we got to go to work and get ourselves to that point, and we're not quite there yet. So, you know, we'll fight hard for a race win if we can get one, and it's for $1 million. We'll go get it.
Thank you.
We're going to go James Jackson back there, and then Chris Knight.
Jackson to racingexperts.com. Kyle, both Noah and Todd were in here earlier talking about how much they've learned at Kyle Busch Motorsports. What kind of things are you teaching them and your team teaching them, and what do you expect from them as a team?
What aren't we teaching them? Dude, I don't know. You know, it's just so many things that we talk about in our team meetings and in our debriefs and such, and you know, it's hard to tell you exactly what all that is because there's a price people pay for that, and that's being at Kyle Busch Motorsports. So it wouldn't be fair for me, for those guys, to just give you all the information and then people be able to read it and not have to come to my place to figure it out. So, you know, it's just a lot of mentorship and tutoring and things like that from me, from Rudy, from the crew chiefs that we have there. We've got a lot of experience in crew chiefs and stuff, and you know, we're always continuing to try to strive to get better and make our stuff faster. So, you know, Noah has certainly come on this year. We're real proud of what he's got going on right now. I said weeks ago he was kind of stuck 3rd to 6th, and now he's stuck 1st to 2nd. So it's a good problem for him to have, and we'll keep trying to race with him. And Todd, this is his first 1.5 mile start in the truck, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got, and he's been fast so far. We certainly got to clean up some things that he's been having some issues with last year and this year. He had another problem today, so we'll get down to the bottom of that and figure all that out to help continue to make our guys stronger.
Yeah, ChrisKnightCatchfence.com. Kyle, following up on that, what are your expectations as far as from organization now that Todd's a full-time driver and Noah's being pegged as a potential championship 4 favorite?
Yeah, I think they really need to lean on each other. They need to talk to one another and be teammates with one another and figure out how to communicate with each other to help each other. You know, a lot of times teammates can communicate with one another and do it in deceiving ways that's hurtful, and that's not how we want to operate. You know, our crew chiefs don't operate that way, so we always try to keep and strive for open notebook policy and to help each other out. Obviously, Rudy and Noah, Rudy especially is kind of the leader of our whole thing, and Noah's going to be the leader of the driver group, if you will. So he's got to have some good patience when it comes to talking to these guys and racing around these guys and stuff on the racetrack. So, you know, with Todd coming on full time now, I'd like to think that Todd's going to be ready to go right out of the book and finish top 5, but you know, Noah wasn't that way last year, so he's got some work to get better. And if it comes down to a time where they're racing for wins, that they do it as teammates should, and as what I would expect, because otherwise they got to deal with me, both on and off the racetrack.
And then if Todd gets a win and he meets the guidelines for the playoffs, do you expect him to get a waiver?
why put me in that spot?
I'm just curious, because you got a waiver when you I understand that you got hurt at Daytona, but here's a guy that.
Do we expect it? Sure. Do we deserve it? I don't know. I would like to think that that a full-time truck would be deserving of a waiver if it comes down to it, but we're not to that point yet, so we're not going to worry about it yet.
Tom Baker, Race Chaser Media and 3 Wide Life. Kyle, you're obviously racing in tonight's race as well, and you've had great success in the truck at almost all the tracks you've raced at, but it seems like Charlotte's one of your strongest tracks. Can you talk a little bit about the success that you've had here and why you think it has been such a great track for you?
I don't know. I've always enjoyed racing here, and it's been really fun to compete in all the series here. I've been in ARCA, I've been in Truck, I've been in Xfinity, I've been in Cup. So obviously I've won here in Truck and Xfinity lots of times, but have yet to win as many times in Cup as I'd like to. So we're still working on that, but overall the truck success I've had here has been awesome. I've been competing in the trucks for a while, I guess since 2005 maybe, and that's been against guys like Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer and Ron Hornaday and Todd Bodine and Mike Skinner and some of the best that we've been able to go up against and score wins against. So it's been fun, and hopefully tonight's no different than that, going up against guys like Johnny Sauter, Matt Crafton, Noah Gragson that we'll be racing against and trying to go to victory lane with again. So this 51 team is we've won a race already this year at Las Vegas. It was really good for us. We ran competitive there, and hopefully we can do it again.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Kyle, you're one of a handful of guys in this all-star field that was able to race with this package in the Xfinity race last year at Indianapolis. Is there anything from that race that you take and you can apply to this? And should qualifying get rained out, is track position, are we going to see it like it was at Indy where it's not as important as it would normally be here?
Man, I don't know. It's Cup cars now. It's different cars. It's different body shapes. It's different racetrack being at Charlotte versus Indy. So I don't know. But, obviously we're all hoping for the product to be better and to put on an exciting race and a good show. And what all that's going to entail, I'm not sure. So far I've heard a couple guys say that when they're single file, there's not much difference between the draft up. But when two cars get stuck side by side, there's a bigger deal in that regard. And I remember that from Indy some. But, when we were at Indy, we were slower through the corner, so yeah, you could run wider, 3 wide, where you don't ever see that at Indy. But when William and I got single filed out, we pretty much drove away from the field. When you can do that and separate yourself and then make it a one-man versus one-man race, but yeah, you still can't pass. Like I think we drafted away. I was leading, and then I think he somehow got by me. I don't remember what happened, but but then I was trying some things to try to get back by him, and just wasn't able to do it. I stayed in touch with him the whole time, but then wasn't able to get by him. And then we got scared with right front tire wear and pitted and just basically handed him the win. So, I really don't know what to expect and what it's going to come down to. And with shorter segments, you're going to put tires on every 20 laps. So the grip level is certainly going to be there a lot more in the race than you would anticipate in a traditional race being 40-lap runs. It's going to be only half as much. So, you'll have fresher tires more often than not, and you'll have more grip, and everybody's just going to drive harder.
Mike, then Dustin Long.
I know you don't know a lot about how these cars are going to perform yet, but if the race is really great, dynamite competition, et cetera, can you see the possibility of this package being used in point races down the road?
I can certainly see it. It's not necessarily what I signed up for to be a race car driver, to bring the whole field closer together and have it dictated by some type of a plate race. But if that's what we're going to have going forward, then I guess I either need to think about figuring out how to get really good at it or getting out of it. So we'll see what happens.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I wanted to ask you something about IndyCar talked about this week about a new test for concussions, and it was something that came out of last year when Will Power had his accident and was held out of a race and then later found not to have a concussion. This was a new test that he later went through that kind of showed it was an ear infection, inner ear issue as opposed to a concussion. So I'm curious. I'm sure there's always questions from a competitor's point of view in the sense of, in essence, a doctor can tell you you're being held out, whether you feel like you should be or not. How do you feel like the potential for new technology? I don't even know if you've paid much attention to what IndyCar introduced this week, or how important it would be for NASCAR to consider something like this from a competitor's point of view, where maybe the doctor could say that you're not racing.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the IndyCar stuff. I don't know nothing that you're talking about, but I did hear about the Will Power thing from last year. So obviously, anytime you're stuck in a situation like that or put in a situation like that where somebody else has to dictate whether or not you can be in the race car is a tough situation. It's not any situation that any of us drivers want to be in, and we don't want to. If we feel up to it or we feel fine to it that we should be out there on the racetrack, then that's the way it's been since 2014, 15 prior. So, there's all these new guidelines and all these new things that are kind of coming up, and any new technology, it could be used for the better, it could be used for the worse. If you look at it in that regard, obviously, I think a lot of times guys may have issues, head injuries or whatever, and they may race through it, and it's going to cause more harmful long-term effects. But in the short term, all we're thinking about is the short term right here, right now, this weekend, and being in the race car and going out there and competing and, still getting your head jarred around and whatever. And, in 5 weeks, I'm going to be fine. So what's the difference between now and in 5 weeks, right? But it's the when you turn 65 and 75 years old that the problems start to arise. So a lot of times NASCAR has to help us from ourselves. So I think that better technology obviously is something that we all ask for in order to make sure that we have either A, more opinions, or B, better opinions, and that we're not held out of a race car for some other unforeseen circumstance.
All right, any more questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Go on, cheers. More seminars.